making a fake gameplay trainer a warning for the gaming community. I think this is very important because many casual gamers, or maybe those people that are not really into, you know, all of this stuff, they don't know a lot about Unreal Engine or maybe any engine at all, is so that they don't get scammed. Because a bunch of people online, what they do is they create one of these template projects in Unreal Engine that look really good because the majority of the code is already done by the engine for you. And then they make it look really good because that's what Unreal Engine is used for. And then they set up a Kickstarter page and scam you out of your money. I never get scammed because I never believe anyone unless the game is released, but a lot of people have been and will be scammed in the future.
Hey everyone, how's it going? About 2 weeks ago, I released a parody trailer for The Day Before called The Day After. In this video, I wanted to kind of break down how I went about making said project, and also answering a few frequently answered questions, such as, how is this a parody? So first off, to answer that question of how is this a parody, there was quite a few people, I guess, misinterpreting the video and some of its purpose. And I guess forgetting to read the big black background.
The following is a parody. Don't take it seriously. No, seriously. There's lots of bugs and unfinished stuff scattered throughout. It will turn into a real game. This version probably not, but I'm planning on working on a co-op zombie survival. Okay, so what does this have to do with getting scammed?
Big white text at the beginning of the video, but here's why it's a parody and how I went about making it. First off, the whole point is to parody The Day Before's trailers, and to me, they felt like they were all not fake, but they didn't feel genuine. They didn't feel like they were actual gameplay experiences within a big world.
See, like, so that's what I thought too. The moment I saw this, I was like, okay, they're scamming people. It looked good. I was impressed by the visuals as well, but I was like, okay, what is this guy doing right now? What are the features of the game that exist in the game right now? And does it look like it is pre-made in a way that it is literally scripted, or could potentially even be just a fucking video, right? Because that's possible. And by video, I mean it's a scripted event where he just pretends to pick up something and then it just puts up a text and something like that.
They kind of felt separated, almost as if like you had other developers creating these trailers, and sometimes that might happen in an actual development scenario.
But that's not a big deal.
But for The Day Before, it felt so disconnected. It felt almost as if like each trailer was its own thing. It's like a different game. Yes, it was still under the premise of a zombie survival game, but it all felt just not like real, I guess. And the first video was, you know, really well done, but it also kind of was a stepping stone for what came afterwards. And it was a big disaster. Once the second video came around, I was like, yeah, something's not right here, because it felt completely different from the first video. So at that point, I was like, you know, I would love to make a parody of this, you know, kind of making kind of little funny jabs at it, not really trying to make something that was laughing per se, but kind of was like, oh,
why not? Why not? Why not, like, really, why not laugh at these guys? Why not make fun of them? They deserve it, in my opinion. They literally created something. They lied to people. Because they knew it's gonna go viral. You know, you can think of many examples, and then you're like, okay, so I know that this will go viral, right? You can educate yourself in that. And they literally they didn't deliver. So why not make fun of them? Who cares? Like, they deserve it. They should have done a better job. They didn't. But it's an asshole thing to do, yeah. But it's also an asshole thing to do to not deliver or oversell your game so you can sell more copies. And I'm happy they went out of business, which apparently they're not really out of business, because, you know, the CEO is doing some weird stuff. You know, they are like saying they're out of business, but that's like a different story. So yeah, doesn't look all that real to me.
Oh, hey, this is kind of putting into perspective that anybody could technically go in the engine with experience, of course, with a little bit of money and with some time, they can whip up a trailer. And if they really wanted to do it in a malicious way, they could, in theory,
they can
take people's
people
money.
Are doing it all the time,
even though there's no actual game there. Instead, they're just using it as marketing material, and that's it. And that's kind of what the parody was kind of showing people, hey, with maybe 300 hours and a few $1,000s, you could definitely do that. Additionally, something really important that people might have not caught on, this is not a working game. This doesn't work. It's not a fully working game. There is a ton of things that are done halfway to make it seem like it works visually, but it doesn't. So I just want to preface that because I don't want people to...
Like, for example, what you see here, I'm pretty sure that most of this stuff is already done for you. You know, you could see him shoot this zombie in the leg.
Visually,
you see that right here?
But
Watch.
it doesn't. So
he's shooting right now.
Well,
and the leg is getting a force applied to it, so it moves back, right? This stuff is done by the engine for you. You probably, I have not used Unreal Engine. Today is my first time using it. But as a game developer, there is going to be options for that. I can guarantee you that, because that is what the engine is used for, right? It's simple presets.
I preface that because I don't want people to start using this video that I made as a way to tell people, hey, this one guy did something in 300 hours. Why is it that AAA developers can't make a fully fleshed out game? And I just want to make it very clear because as a game developer, I feel like it's extremely important to tell people.
Yep.
It takes time.
No. The thing is, you get 80% of your game done very fast, but then getting the last 20%, finalizing, polishing, fixing bugs, and then maybe you have a system that worked in the beginning but doesn't work anymore. I know you have to take the entire system, put it out of the game, remove it, and then make a new system that works together with the existing systems. So the last 20%, this is where all of the time is spent mostly. It's really easy to hack something together really fast, but then, to make it work cohesively together, that is very, very difficult. The hardest part is finishing a game. Even small games, even the simple games like, what is the simplest game that you could think of, which would be Pong, let's say, right? Even that takes a long time. Longer than you might expect. Unless you have done it like multiple times before, right? Then you just know what you need to do. And the reason why this is so difficult, and I've been thinking about this a lot because I'm currently working on 2 games, right? The Tower Survivors clone from Warcraft and Godot and my tower defense game in C++. It's because you get drained yourself because you happen to get burnout whenever you're not making meaningful progress. And the last 20% usually is not something that you can see a lot of progress in a short amount of time. Let's say you work for 5 days. You don't see as much progress as you would see in the beginning, where a lot of stuff builds up very quickly, right? Maybe in 5 days you only get one really good enemy in the game. While that is still one enemy, you still leave every day with not that much progress, and that can be taxing on your system. And it has been for me as well, and I know that it is for other developers too. So yeah, that is definitely true. However, when you have 5 years and a lot of funding for a game, that doesn't excuse, let's say, the day before, right?
Game development is not easy. There's a lot of little moving parts. It's not like a movie where what you see is what you get. There's a ton of things that could go wrong. And making an MMO like this, like if you were to actually make an MMO like this, it would take a lot of fucking time. It would probably take years and years and years to make something that fully works. Now, I don't plan on making an MMO, and I know a lot of people wanted me to continue this project, but I can't do that. I don't have the experience. I've been working on this for 8 years, but I still don't have the industry experience.
Wow, this guy's been working on games for 8 years.
Such a large scale game, which is why I would love to work on a co-op zombie survival in the future. And if you're interested in that, cool, subscribe. If you're not, that's totally cool. And I hope that another studio can make an MMO zombie survival that's within the kind of scope that the day before kind of wanted to go for, because I think it's really cool. And like you, I am a PvP player as well. I played Tarkov, I played DayZ, I played all those games. I just can't make those types of games because they're very difficult to make with quality and something that's consistent and feels good.
I wonder if you can make a game that's just not as big.
Now, let me show you what we did fake, though.
But with the functionality, right? Now, I know you have to balance a lot, but maybe if you make you don't make such a big map, maybe it doesn't take that much time then.
There's a lot of things in the trailer that we faked. Firstly, and I think the thing that is the funniest, is this city is essentially a movie set. What you see is what you get. Anything beyond that is nothing. In fact, it's nothing to the point where the beginning of the trailer is in an alleyway, but if you were to turn around, there's nothing. Nothing is there. There's no city.
Exactly.
It's just a blank set, just like you would expect from a movie set, right? What you see is what you get. And this was a very important thing that I wanted to really push for in this parody. I didn't like, the only thing that actually works, funny enough, is the combat. That is the closest thing that would actually be close to an actual game.
But the combat is already in the game. You don't have to program it yourself.
Parts to it, but you know, whatever. The rest of the game is extremely faked. So the movie set, if you were to continue down this street, there's nothing around here. It's like, oh, hey, it's empty. But then you go beyond the truck and it's an empty street. There's no more of the apocalyptic mood or anything like that. In fact, a lot of the buildings are low poly. They're basically just flat meshes. So a lot of it is like a movie set, which is one of the funny things that I really wanted to point out. So there were a few people that wanted to explore the city, but there's really nothing there. There's just little parts. Like if you were to go here, there's basically nothing. There's no props. If I were to go beyond this blockade, there's nothing here. Although I probably should have made some stuff that would have been better to fake. We go past this alleyway here that we crossed through in the trailer, and there's nothing across here. There's nothing behind this truck. In fact, there's a zombie there, which I don't remember. I only focused most of the detail on the places where the player actually
forgot to remove
goes.
him. Yeah.
You can see across the street, this is where we run away from the zombies. There's nothing on the left and right, and this is perfect because it's during the blizzard, so we can kind of hide those details. So it's extremely important to know that this was never a fully working game, to the point where we had to put some boxes here to stop the AI from seeing the players walk by here, just in case. Tons of little details all around, kind of doing all these things to kind of control the space, which is not uncommon for a trailer, but this is going on like an extreme level. So let's say we wanted to talk about some of the gameplay mechanics. This UI is actually mostly fake. These buttons don't work. They don't go anywhere.
Okay,
this equipment inventory doesn't actually work. These are just buttons that don't do anything. They just hover over.
And I suppose these are just the pictures from what he's wearing, and he's just wearing this all the time, right? So it's like a visualization of how it could look, which, you know, don't get me wrong, that's already a very good starting point, right? Because oftentimes UI design also takes a lot of time.
In fact, the other players that have a different player model, say like this, character model 2, which was our teammate, who has a broken jaw, as you can tell, still shows the primary player
probably,
character,
because it's just taking the pictures.
There's a lot of things that I didn't really work on because nobody would see it except for the actors in the server. And as you can tell, I also have cheat buttons to basically switch the player model. We had teleport buttons to teleport us to different areas of the set, I guess. And there's a few things that are working, right? Like some of the doors and stuff like that work. The looting technically works, kind of. But it is all like pre-placed. So all of the little items that we pick up throughout the trailer is all pre-placed. That's just going to show how much of this is all kind of built for the purpose of marketing material.
So what he's trying to say here, that in a real game it might not be pre-placed. So like I get his point here, but I don't think it's bad. Like let's say in the very beginning, or let's not say beginning, but very early on, most of the items, and even today, most of the items, or in some games, are pre-placed. And the reason why they are pre-placed is because then they can control how much you loot. But it's not every time. Like, for example, Witcher 3 doesn't do that. Palworld doesn't do that, stuff like that. It's randomly generated. But you can still do that. I don't think that's bad to do at all.
And if somebody wanted to do this maliciously, if they put even a little bit more time into this and really like refined the visuals and stuff, because this isn't the most
and hello
perfect
Morax on
looking
YouTube
thing in the
man.
world, but if they really wanted to take the time, they could do that, and they could create a whole like fake website and everything. And that was the point of the video, is to tell people that it is possible to do that with the right time, with the right experience.
Yeah, like
someone could hire a game developer.
See, this is what people say when, let's say, you remember this game about dragons. It was like a huge deal a long time ago. People could actually become a dragon and fly around, right? It's still a game that is alive today. And in the beginning, it was one developer. It was an Unreal Engine project, and all you could literally do, Monster Hunter? No, not Monster Hunter. All you could do in the game was literally fly around with a dragon, and that was it. And that was all pre-made assets and functionality. There wasn't anything tangible in the game at all. And this guy received a massive funding, but also massive amounts of backlash. Yet there's still people playing the game today and supporting him. Because he's actually actively updating the game now. However, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy what you can do with little amount of time and little investment in this. Shut up and take my money, fly as a dragon, yeah.
That could create the trailer and stuff like that. And then they themselves could, you know, take money from people. This zombie right here is actually not real either. This is just an animation that's being played with a sound effect. It's not an actual zombie. And then once I cross a threshold in this building, it will spawn zombies right here. They'll start roaming around, and then that zombie's deleted. So that just goes to show even more, you know, you might think, oh, it's a behavior thing where, you know, zombies ended up coming over here. Maybe they heard noise, but in reality, it's just there's a box like right here.
It's a video essentially. Yeah, it's like a video editing
right
stuff
happening. You can see
exactly.
in the corner, overlap trigger box. You can start hearing the zombies, and then the snow as well as a part of that overlap box. Additionally, there's overlap
so it's like
boxes
basically
here
a trigger.
Kind of,
you enter the box and it triggers a path in the code, right? That's what happens. It's like an if condition.
Set the weather.
Resident Evil literally does this. Yeah, it's not bad to do that, right? If like it's not really bad to do that. That's true. But what the problem with this is that it creates a false sense of polish and gameplay features that you would expect from the full game. So it sets the bar up very high from the very outlet, from the get-go, and as we saw in the day before, they couldn't meet that bar. They set that way too high. They knew they were going to make money, but it's also a performance thing. I don't think it is really. I think it's mostly an expectation thing. People get expectations from this. They see this game. They see like, oh man, they already have all of this. And there's literally people that believe that, right? And then they expect the same quality throughout the entire game because, well, they had this 5 years ago. How can they not have this in the game? They should have this already, right? If they have this already, it's going to take a couple more years, maybe, 1-2 years until it's done. But they literally have nothing. They don't have a single system in the game. That's the problem, It's not a single system that actually works. And this type of stuff right here, when they create an open world game, or let's say an MMORPG, what they are creating here is a scripted event. But in an MMORPG, this event has to be part of, let's say, a pool of events that can happen randomly in random places, and these places need to make sense. Right, and so basically they're creating themselves this huge backlog of features with this little trailer that is almost impossible to get done in a meaningful amount of time. Because it's not just that, oh yeah, he walked into this door, but okay, this type of event should happen in multiple places, right? It shouldn't only happen in this one place.
Everything in here is essentially faked. This trigger box will trigger just regular snow, and then there's another trigger box around here that will start triggering the blizzard.
Just taking a look at the UI right now seems okay, I guess. We'll get to see the UI in a second. I'm excited for that.
And that's essentially how a lot of this was made. Now, the city was using a bunch of asset packs, but I did lay out the city myself, which is probably a waste of time, but it was kind of fun. And from a developer standpoint, I kind of just wanted to challenge myself, learn new things.
It probably took the most amount of time to build the city and place stuff in here. Let's say this is one block, right? A Lego block. He had to place this Lego block and then properly align that Lego block with this one. Maybe there's snapping here. Probably there is an Unreal Engine. And then he had to place this thing, this one here on top. He had to place the cars. Yeah, that's a lot. Hello, Dreadyfire.
Kind of improve my skills, and that was kind of the point of the project as well, is to kind of just, you know, where am I at as a developer? That was kind of what I wanted to do personally. Now, I did use a lot of assets, and a lot of people asked me which assets I used. I'm going to put a list scrolling down on the screen. You can pause it at any time. I would say it was over $1,000. Might have been even over over $2,000, but I spent...
My God, look at that. Like, wow.
1,500, give or take, on this project alone. And then I used assets that I had over time. So it might actually be even a little bit over, but
probably more, yeah.
That's really not that much when you think about how much it takes to actually develop a proper game.
No, also, if you think or put this into perspective, right? He spends a couple $1,000s on these assets. If, let's say, you know, let's think about the day before. Did they do a Kickstarter? Probably did, right? Let's see here. Pretty sure they did Kickstarter, right? The day before Christmas. They didn't do a day before Kickstarter. This is not it. How did they get funding? It was removed, I think. Oh, really? How much did they fund? Was the day before a scam? How much was the day before crowdfunded? Yes. No, it was not. In fact, there weren't even pre-orders. It was actually the biggest amount the game not being argument for the game not being a scam, even if plenty of people felt scammed by the game's marketing. Interesting. So it looks like they were not crowdfunded, or is this a lie? Fan funded, no crowdfunding, no pre-orders, no donations. Yeah, that looks more like they just tried to make a game they couldn't make. Yeah, ethical devs. Yeah, actually ethical devs, but they tried to they created too. It's like a what is it called? No Man's Sky situation.
No. Coding Ruo just subscribed.
My man, Coding Ruo.
For 5
I appreciate it very much.
5 months.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much for the support. I appreciate it. Bad eyes equals bad reading. They feel scammed by promises. It's a missing daddy syndrome. No, yeah, that's the problem. Exactly what I said earlier. They created way too high expectations for a game they couldn't make. Exactly. When you make something like what I said earlier, when you create an event like that, people expect this type of event throughout the game. If this is an online game, like think about how many of you have played Guild Wars 2? You know how these strongholds in Guild Wars 2 that you can conquer and then the stronghold is yours? I don't know if they are called strongholds, but these were basically, you know, the biggest selling point of the game was how the world would change according to player action, right? And when you played the game, you probably realized that these events or the changing of the world was all scripted events, meaning that okay, there is a particular situation or not situation, there's a particular place that you can go to and only that can change. It doesn't change the entire world, it changes areas. Let's say a camp goes from one faction to another faction or is, you know, occupied by enemies, stuff like that. And they would have to do the same thing in this game, and they would have to keep it to certain locations because it doesn't work everywhere. And it's still something that you have to program in, and it needs to make sense, and that is a lot of work.
Hours, if I were to do that in man hours and like charge myself, I usually go for like $45 an hour, something like that. If I were to do that math, it would be 45 times 300, which in theory would be costing near to $13,000, $14,000 for this, right? Plus probably extra. So in reality, this might have cost $15,000 when you think about the amount of time it might have taken and all those kind of factors.
$300 for this, crazy.
At the end of the day, when you really think about a full game is over like these kind of scales of games could be over millions of dollars.
Yep.
So imagine someone could have maybe 25,000, they could create a whole fake
See, like,
trailer,
this is another point that I really want to bring up. You see the number here? And that is something that irks me a lot, especially when I saw Palworld. You see, like, he spent about 300 hours on this project. It's a small alleyway in the city where you can walk around the streets and then some zombies spawn, and it is a scripted event, right? And when the video came out that Asmongold, or let's say the Reddit post that Asmongold reacted to, where the devs pointed out how much funding they had, what is it called, budget, how much budget they had, and how they went about making the game. This creates a false expectations for up-and-coming developers. They didn't have a funding of $10,000. They literally spent multiple $1 million on the project, and towards the end, they had about 30 creatures in the game, 30 pals. And then the guy that was in charge, the CEO, he actually hired about 40 people to finish the rest of the parts because they felt like they didn't have enough parts in the game. And so to think, or to give the impression that a couple of students could make such a game is really frustrating to me, because it creates the false perception of what it really takes to make a game. These people have been making games for almost a decade. They have a game they made before, which was almost exactly the same style as Palworld, that they used to learn a lot from. And that amount of experience is something that people never really factor in. It wasn't made by some middle schooler. That is not true. It was made by a professional team that had experience for years. And if you take a look at this number, you can then figure out probably why Palworld or games in that scale take so much money and time. Yeah, it's a little frustrating to see that people actually believe that it's easy to... I'm not saying that a bad game, I'm not giving an excuse for bad games. Like, I hate how Diablo 4 has been made as well. I'm really frustrated with that, and I hope that they will change that, which probably won't happen, and it's still not taken away from Palworld and their success, but there's a lot more that goes into making games than just some middle schoolers making a couple of models for fun. That's not how it is. Definitely
costing
not.
Near to $13,000, $14,000 for this, right? Plus probably extra. So in reality, this might have cost $15,000 when you think about the amount of time it might have taken and all those kind of factors. But at the end of the day, when you really think about a full game,
this guy has 8 years of experience, right?
Like these kind of scales of games could be over millions of dollars. So imagine someone could have maybe 25,000, they could create a whole fake trailer, fake marketing material. Yep. They could scam not only consumers, but also investors if they wanted to. And that was kind of the whole point of the video, was to kind of show that this is possible. And some people did get tricked into it, even though I kind of put messages everywhere saying that it's not real. Another thing that I wanted to point out is that a lot of the gameplay mechanics actually don't 100% work. And the main reasoning for that is because I got lazy and because I found it kind of funny. So the server could actually see other clients doing things properly, no problem, right? Because that was the whole point. I wanted that to be important. However, if a client looks at the server doing something or looks at another client doing something, it'll look a bit like this. And that's just, one example of things that are broken. In fact, the client actually never sees the server throw the glass bottle at the car. They don't ever see any of that. In fact, all they see is the zombies start going to the car, because enemy AI is all server side, at least in Unreal Engine. So all they saw was that happening. They didn't even know the car alarm was going off or anything like that, because it was local. And it's easy to...
I see. So basically what he's saying here, he is playing on the server, and a client would be someone that he plays together with, right? He's the server and the client is connecting to him. And he is throwing a bottle, which makes the car go off and raise alarm. And then the enemies, the zombies in this case, go to the car. And the client, let's say his friend that's playing with him, that is connecting to him, only sees that the zombies move towards the car. He doesn't hear the car ringing, he doesn't see the bottle being thrown, because that information is not being sent towards him. It's basically like a, how do you say that? An information performance kind of thing, probably, and something that you have to make yourself, work on yourself.
Well, easy in quotation marks, of course. That's just to show that you can cut so much time just to create marketing material to kind of fool people and to kind of suck them in. Now, that wasn't the purpose. I'm not selling a game or anything like that out of this. If I make a co-op zombie survival game, I'm going to be completely transparent with everyone about the process, what I do. If I make a trailer that's kind of like, you know, sectioned off, I will tell people that that's what happened, because I think that is a good thing to do. Now, of course, yeah, you're not going to have as much hype doing that, but I think it's better to do that and to set expectations of people rather than fooling them.
You can get out of business.
People that are malicious don't care about that. They want the most money possible in the quickest amount of time. I also utilized some great tools like Advanced Locomotion System, which is essentially this animation system, but I did put in my own stuff in here, such as, you know, the baseball bat attack animations and stuff like that.
The thing is potential though.
They're not my own animations. This is actually...
No, not really, because he can't finish it. That's the point. Granted, work on it. No, he can't finish it. That's the point. That's the whole point of this video. Yes, you're being sucked into it too. Yes. You're being sucked into it too, bro. You have to resist. The whole point of the video is that he can't make such a game. We're 12 minutes into the video, bro. And he's been talking about how he can't make such a game the entire time. Oh, man. Oh, my God. Oh man, this is great. Oh, I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. But no, he can't. Like the reason why he can't, why that it will never happen, is because the systems that he would need to make so that it actually works would take him, let's say, 10, 20 years to make. He could probably make it, but he would be, let's say he works on it full time, he quits his job, right? It would take him too long, basically. It would take him too long. That's a problem. The demo is like 5% of a game, just that people that have never made a game think it's 90%. Exactly. This is literally like 5%, maybe less of the game. Like again, earlier with, you know, let's take the example of the network problem. He sees his companion moving, not companion, his friend moving, right? Because the friend is the client and he's the server, and the client sends the data to the server. However, the client doesn't see anything that's happening. That alone takes a lot of work and time. There can be package loss, there can be other problems that happen. All of this stuff has to be programmed in to work. And it has to work, if you're making a PvP game, it has to work perfectly. Because people get really angry when lag happens, you know, and then they leave the game. Stuff like that can take years. Package loss.
An animation kit.
Maybe. What about the senior
swords,
Unreal Engine dev?
Swords,
it's not about being a senior Unreal Engine dev or not. You can become a senior just by sheer work time alone. That doesn't mean that you have experience in all of these different systems and can create all of these different systems. If you have a person that has made such a game before or has worked on all of these different areas in a game, maybe. But just like when you write your own engine in C++, for example, that took me 1 year of time to come up with a terrible example of how to make an engine. And I'm still developing on that. And we are currently in year 3 of development, right? It takes a long time. You underestimate things. You underestimate the small things. Yes, you can make a sound play, but what if you want to make a sound play locally and with, let's say, bass or certain effects? It's so many different things that you have to learn and know that even exist, right? You don't know these things exist until you see them or someone teaches you these things.
Weapons, but I kind of didn't have any baseball bat.
It's not a solid base.
Items, so I kind of made with what I had. Some of the shooting and stuff like that.
Estimation 5. You gotta be trolling, right? You gotta be trolling, bro. We are literally looking at the day before trailer right now. They had 5 years. You know what happened to them, and they had a team. He is alone.
Made myself with the aim down sight and stuff like that.
This is great.
I made that stuff myself because I didn't really like the assets version of it. So there are things that I did. The inventory system I made myself, and that took me about I think I stayed up until 6 a.m. working on my own version. I had another version that was broken and wasn't the best rendition of it, but I ended up redoing it and turning it into kind of more of like a Tarkov style spatial inventory where you had things taking up different amounts of slots and stuff like that. It's a bit buggy and there's issues with it, but for the purpose of this trailer, I knew that people wouldn't notice a bug if there was one. Additionally, a lot of the weather in here is actually not made by myself. It's using a asset called Ultra Dynamic Sky, as you can tell here. And I can easily control all of the weather from this asset. I can set it to a blizzard. And you can see everything in here is set to...
But I mean, that's nice.
That I just authored all of the materials and stuff like that to utilize some of their functions, to be able to run through the snow and all this kind of stuff.
What is it? It's Crimson, yeah.
And it's not the most optimized thing in the world. If I were to show you what the complexity of this scene looks like with all of these new tools, of course I didn't optimize anything, but you could tell there's a lot of red in here, which is not great.
Aha, so basically this is scalability high. This is basically some sort of Unreal Engine profiler that tells you, okay, so the green stuff, you can scale that very well. And then as you go towards the red, maybe even white. Wait, how do you read this? Why do you want to learn Unreal Engine, by the way, Cakes? Because I want to make a mod in Unreal Engine. It counts the shader instructions. Oh, I see. Wow, the glass on the car has a lot of shader instructions, right? Excuse me. I always wanted to learn Unreal Engine to see how it is, but now I have a real reason to use it. Are you enjoying Unreal? Oh, we are currently watching a video about it because it's downloading. We'll see in a second how I like it. It's a shitty view, to be honest. Now, I would assume that white means the most amount of shader instructions then, and green means the least amount. But why is it not just from green to red? And it says scalability high, so that's still good. Bleh. What will the mod do? Put some crooked candles in the game?
In fact, most of the game only ran at around 70 or 80 FPS, which is perfect because we only needed to run at 60 for the video. For me personally, as a game developer, I like to aim for 90, 100 FPS at the very least. There are trailers out there that even go for 30 FPS because there's a lot of visual stuff going on and they kind of just bump up the numbers. In fact, I didn't even bump up the numbers. I think most of the video was set on high rather than cinematic or epic because those were running at around 30 or 40 FPS. So the trailer actually could have looked better than what it did, but I didn't really care too much. I didn't even put too much emphasis into the visuals of the scene. I think if I spent another 100 hours, I could probably increase the overall fidelity of everything, but I kind of just wanted to finish the project. I didn't want it to take much longer. But you can see this entire asset has everything there for me, and I didn't really have to do much myself. There's rain.
That's really cool.
There's light rain, there's sandstorms, there's overcast, there's all this kind of stuff.
This is crazy.
And I didn't really have to do that. That was kind of like a plug and play.
It's all done with the shader. That's the crazy thing. It's all done with graphics card instructions. It's a program on the graphics card that's doing this.
If someone wanted to, they
Ultra
could really
Dynamic
just go
Sky
in and throw some shit together. With enough experience, they could, I think, really have something that's extremely convincing. Now, this isn't to say that this isn't something new.
And
the day before is not new. We've seen tons and tons of little different things just like the day before, but it was just on a different scale, I think. But we've seen tons of things on Kickstarter, you know, tons of other games that have kind of swindled people to a certain extent, and you find out the development was an absolute disaster. Now, I can say that this isn't going to be a disaster because I'm not going to work on it. There's a lot of things that would have to be done for this to work. A MMO is extremely difficult, and you know, I just want to, you know, rehash what I said earlier. Game development is not an easy thing. Just because I'm showing that, you know, one guy did all of this in like 300 hours doesn't mean that making an actual fully playable actual game takes 300 hours. It can take thousands, tens and thousands.
Yeah, the point is that you can bring out something like this, right?
And
you can bring out something like this, but actually making the game is probably impossible if you're alone. Or it will take way too much time and people will lose faith in the game. That's the point. And hopefully, people will learn from this stuff.
Team to get this going. It's not going to be one person that does it, especially because in an MMO, you're going to need people that are specialized in networking. You're going to need people that are specialized in art, programming, design, sound, everything. There's just so much that goes into it. And I really wanted to make this video to kind of really rehash that point, because I don't want people to start shitting on game developers and using my video as a way of proving that. Other than that, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. I'd love to answer anything game development related, games, etc. Of course, I will be working on a co-op zombie survival. It is now in pre-production. I'm working on all the design, kind of figuring out some of the gameplay loop and how it's going to play out, and some of the fundamental stuff that I want the game to really stand on. And I love survival games. I would have loved to make one years ago, but I didn't have the experience. Now I feel like I have the experience to kind of get something going, so I'm really excited to work on that. Other than that, hope you have a fantastic week, and I'll see you later.
Yep. There it is, guys. There it is, making a fake gameplay trailer. Give him a sub, he's cool.